Hi, this is Dena Tollefson and welcome to my studio. I'm so glad to have you here with me today. So I'm toning the canvas by using a fluid acrylic to tone my oil painting. I'm setting up a yellow ochre basis using a wide brush. And I hope that you'll enjoy today's video and just be able to relax. So this yellow ochre that I'm applying everywhere is going to set a warm basis for the painting. Here's some of the brushes and the knives that I'll be using in today's painting. So now getting at the oil paint, I've got a titanium white, yellow ochre, ivory black, cadmium orange hue, and here I'm mixing up yellow ochre and phthalo blue red shade. I'm going to make two little puddles of color. One will be a dark color to define the darkest areas of the painting, and this other lighter color will be the light areas. And I'm going to be drawing on the painting with my brush and making it grisaille as a basis for the color later. So this painting is a very special painting. It is a commission for Jackie and Syl Amos for their Florida home, and the name of the painting is going to be called Jacqueline's Pond. Just using a little bit of this color to start establishing the overall feeling of the painting, starting out with the lily pads and the lily flowers. You can see my little birds, Groshi and Romeo, are taking a little nap. They're roosting right now as I'm painting. I'm working to get a inverted C-shaped composition. So I'm right now just drawing in all the elements, but I'm intending for them to have a form where it's a backward C. There's going to be an area of light in the center and then dark along the edges. And all of the lily pads and the blossoms will follow this inverted C shape. Let's add a little bit more yellow ochre here. There we go. Now I'm using a brush and this color to establish the foliage around the pond, and I'm following the direction that the plants grow. This kind of brushy, thick reeds and other plant forms that are along the edge of the pond and reflected in from the sky. When you look at the pond, you see the reflection of the sky and you see the plants. So I'm adding an even little bit darker, adding a little bit more of the phthalo blue red shade to the mixture to get a really nice dark color. And I'll rinse this off. So I'm using water mixable or water mincible paints. And these are all, some Cobra, Royal Talons Cobra, but mostly Winsor & Newton. And what I like about this water mixable or water mincible paint is that when you use it, you don't have to use turpentine or mineral spirits, anything like that. So none of those pollutants get into the air. So just getting these lily pads established with a initial covering, and I'm Also thinking about leaving some of the underpainting to peek through for harmony across the entire painting. Let's mix up a color for the lily flowers using titanium white and some cad orange hue and a little bit of cad orange medium hue. And I'll get the front part of the flowers laid in with this wonderful oil paint. It's nice and easy here. And I'll use the lightest colors and move to progressively darker colors to work on a sense of three-dimensionality in the blooms. So another aspect of the painting that I'm thinking about is also integrating the idea of wabi-sabi, which is the Japanese aesthetic of honoring all phases of life. So with that in mind, I'm having some of the blossoms are in just the bud stage, and some are starting to open, and some are fully opened and towards the end of their bloom cycle. But the idea of wabi-sabi is that all stages of life are celebrated and are worthy. I think that's a really wonderful sentiment, so I want to be able to express that also through my art. So now putting in some of the cad orange hue just on the edges of the blossoms and in the reflection. There we go. Now, because this is an underpainting, I am not spending any focus really on detail. I'm really thinking about large shapes and the overall flow of the painting. Later, when this layer of oil paint is dry, then I'll be coming back and the first step will be that I'll get approval of the underpainting, because when I put the texture, my signature Daubism texture on top, then it'll be hard to make any changes. So any changes that the client's going to want, I'll need to do that. I'm not anticipating any changes, but if they would want any changes, then I would need to do that here at this underpainting stage before all the texture is added onto the painting later. But I feel like the painting is coming out what I was hoping for. I was thinking about fresh and clean color, thinking about a lot of activity in the pond, and just a happy place to be. So as I'm adding these light areas in the flowers, I'm working to get a nice shape in the blossoms themselves and the little raggedy edges of the petals. So I'm using that same brush and can get that into this smaller lily up here in the distance. And now the bud. And this little guy off here, this one that's partially open. Now let's just Get some color down here in the reflection and on the sides of the lily. There we go. Just really reinforcing this idea of peach flowers. All right, let's get that color rinsed out here. That color looks so pretty in the water. Wonderful, fresh peach color. Now let's go in with some cad red hue. Just a few touches here. And right up in here on this blossom area. There we go. So now I'm going to take a little black and underneath each of the lily pads and the blossoms, I'm going to go ahead and ground these, which means that we're going to make it part of the water or part of the earth when we ground an object. Just a little mark underneath. Showing where each lily pad meets up with the water. We'll add a little bit more here. There we go. And I'm already thinking about what little creatures might be hiding underneath the lily pads and the flowers. So now it's time to add our blue. I've got a phthalo blue red shade mixed with a very small amount of titanium white and just a tiny little bit of the cad red or the cad orange hue. So now I'm just going to do a thing called negative painting, which means not that we have a negative attitude, but that I'm carving out the shapes of the lily pads and the blossoms by painting up around the objects. So you can kind of see the shadow of the flowers and the difference between the water and the lily pads appear when I paint around them. Doing the darkest parts of the water on the outer edge of our C-shaped composition. I'm going to also try and connect all of the dark shapes together. And connecting all of the dark shapes will also help let the eye flow across the pond. I'm using a large paintbrush, relatively large paintbrush, to try and make sure I've got bold and courageous strokes of paint. Nothing fussy. Now turning to the right side of the painting, I'll go right up along the foliage edge with this wonderful dark blue that we have. Just teasing it along the blossom that's starting to open. There we go. And up along the edge of that little lily pad. Be careful as I'm working to not get paint where we already have the flowers and the vegetation. And then working the strokes of paint up towards the foliage on the banks of the pond. I like that contrast between the dark blue and the really light colors in the blossoms. So I'm trying to go for a dynamic painting that is bold and cheerful and joyful. So I'm just scrubbing the paint up underneath the lily pad and then working it in the foliage area. And I'm being careful when I get up near the reflection. I want to make sure I don't obliterate that. Softening that edge. All right, now the lightest color this color was mixed by taking the phthalo blue red shade and quite a bit of yellow ochre and some titanium white to make a warm and light colored blue. So this area of blue is my idea of where the sky is in its light, and the sun is hitting onto this pond, and there'll be certain areas of the pond that are going to be more sunlit than others. So it's a day that has some little puffy clouds and a nice blue sky, and so those colors are reflecting onto the water. Just bringing that water up over and around this lily pad. And I'm allowing little passages of the yellow ochre undertone or the underpainting. This is the underpainting, the toned canvas, the yellow ochre toned canvas. Just allowing little bits of that to peek through. Bringing that light color right up along to our largest lily. So in our C-shaped composition, the center of the C is this lightest area, this blue, this very light blue color. So you can see there's a sharp line of demarcation between the dark blue and this light blue. So I'm going to be creating a kind of a gray blue that is going to be bridging between the two and will unite the two colors together. So first I'll get all this light area established, and then some of the gray will be on its own in the areas that you see where the yellow ochre is just there right now. And then some of the gray color will be covering the light, and some of the gray color will be covering the dark blue. But let's just let this light blue kind of go all the way across the canvas. Get that right up there underneath the reflection of the second lily. And then let's carve out the shape of that lily pad there. There we go. And right up onto the reflection. So I have this gray color now mixed, and I made the gray by using French ultramarine blue and quite a bit actually of the cad orange hue and some titanium white. So this color will transition between our darkest blue and the lightest blue. Again, just letting some areas peek through for some areas of mystery, little animals and fishes and insects that might be in the water, as well as the reflection of the sky. Now I have a little area in the reflection on that bud. I want to remove some of that paint. I'm going to take a dry paintbrush. See if I can get some of that. I'll take a little bit of that, see if I can get that off. I have it covered a little too much. I want to show a little bit more. There we go. A little bit more of that reflection. Just using the side of the brush, low to the canvas, to remove that paint there. That's better. That's the look we want. Okay. Get a little bit of the color across. There we go. Now I'm just kind of scrubbing, the scrubbing motion, using this gray color to bridge between our lightest blue and our darkest blue in the water. And I don't have a lot of paint on the brush at this point. I'm just allowing it to kind of almost do a dry brush kind of effect. Coming back over and integrating this gray color in with the blue, the light blue. Allowing that gray to just come right up onto the flower. This little bit of darker color helps set the flower off more. The contrast between the the light and the dark. Now I got a little bit of paint onto the flower where I don't want it, so I'm going to go ahead and get that. Let me get that just wiped off there. There, and there we go. There. And we'll just get this all worked in over here. I appreciate that you're here today with me. So if you are new to my channel, I hope that you'll come back again and subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss any videos. And if you've been to my channel before and you've come back, I say thank you for coming back again, and I really appreciate that you are here. It means a lot to me. I'm also going to be making a part 2 to this video where I'll be adding my Daubism signature painting technique, thick slabs of oil paint applied with palette knives and spoons. That'll take this painting from a two-dimensional kind of a flat underpainting. It's going to take it to a kind of a combination between a low relief sculpture and mosaic and a traditional painting. Very shiny and thick slabs of paint I'll be putting on. So I hope that you'll be watching part 2 of this as well. Just kind of teasing this gray color up here into the dark. And integrating this as well a little bit underneath the lily pad to bring the two colors together. There we go. So now I'll sign the underpainting, and I'm using a little liner brush and some ivory black that I've thinned down with a small amount of linseed oil to write my signature. And then when this is all dry, I can start the next step, which is going to be adding all of the texture. There we go. Well, I want to thank you so much, and I hope that you'll come back and see me again. Bye-bye.